Hello there. Today we're reviewing the game Star Trek Away Missions. It's a game that has just come out, published by Gale Force 9. So these are the same guys that have published, among other things, Star Trek Ascendancy. As you can see, this is a miniatures board game, and the core set comes with the Battle of Wolf 349. This is set in the Star Trek the Next Generation universe, and it follows the events of the engagements with the Borg. I won't mention what happens on the TV show because um, I think that if you've watched Star Trek: The Next Generation and you're a fan, you will enjoy this game. If you haven't, then this game might not be for you because I think it's a highly thematic game. I'm going to start by commenting on the components. Then we're going to talk about a little bit how the game plays, and then in the end I'll give my assessment of the game. So in terms of components, I think the first thing that you can see here is the boards. This is a modular board. So these are different boards that are then combined together at the start of the game, and the boards on one side have a Federation starship. On the other side, they have a Borg cube. So there's some variability with that because you can play as either on the side of the Borg cube or the Federation starship, and it's modular in the sense that it's going to be a bit different every time you play because there's setup to the game. The boards are quite nice, quite detailed. You can see the different places on the ship. These are the turbo lifts here, so quite nice. Everything is very visually appealing. I think the next point is the minis. I think there's been a lot of chatter online about the minis. I'm usually not a fan of cartoonish minis, but for whatever reason, these ones I actually like quite a lot. You can see here, this is Worf, Lieutenant Commander Riker, who is leading the Federation away team. And then we've got the Borg. The miniatures are quite detailed. We also have data here. The miniatures are quite detailed. Yes, they're a bit cartoonish, but I think they've been done in a way that it's easy to tell them apart on the board. So, like for example, here you can really tell apart data from Riker. So I like the minis. I'm not a painter myself, but obviously I've seen some folks painting them, and they look quite nice. And now a few things that I don't like about the components are going to be some of the tokens, and I'll show you some of the tokens here that I personally don't like, which are these tokens here. So the bonus action token just says bonus action. The take cover token says take cover. Activated says activated, and stun says stun. I don't think these tokens are. I mean, they're functional for sure, but they're not super appealing. In terms of, I think they could have introduced some iconography here. I mean, on the board they look nice. So, for example, you put this take cover here on Worf, and you know that he's taken cover, so that means that he will get an extra die for defense. And these are also the character cards. So when a character has been activated, we've activated Worf. You put an activated token there. Yeah, I think the tokens are functional, but they're just from a design perspective, I don't think they're like super appealing. The other one is the rule book. I think the rule book is quite it's quite nice to look at. It's quite simple. I mean, it's a simple game, but I feel that there are some inconsistencies here and there. There's some things that could have been explained a little bit better. There's some typos. There's a quick start guide that actually I don't see the value in it, and there's some typos as well. There's a quick reference guide that comes with the two quick reference guides, one for each player, and apparently they also have some typos and inconsistencies. So yeah, some things here and there that could have been shored up a little bit better. Maybe that they can be improved for a second edition of this game. The other thing that I'm not too keen on is these pegs. If you see, so this is data, the character card, and in the beginning of the game, you're gonna fill up the character card with pegs, these pegs, and the pegs give extra attack, defense, skill, and movement. And honestly, and as you take damage, you're going to remove these pegs. And if you can't remove a peg, then the character is neutralized. Honestly, I'm going to do this very, very slowly so the pegs don't come off. I think the pegs are a missed opportunity. I don't know exactly what would have been the best system for this, but I think they're just very flimsy, small, flimsy. Yeah, I'm not a fan of these pegs. That's it for components. So there's a kind of a mixed bag in my opinion in terms of the components. Everything else is, I haven't mentioned the cards themselves, but the cards themselves are quite functional. They're fine. They're thick, good cardboard, and you got Locutus of Borg here. They're absolutely fine. In terms of the objective of the game, so the game, and there's already a couple of expansions out, which I haven't been able to play with yet. One is the Klingons, and the other one is the Romulans. But the objective of the game in the core set is to pit the Federation team against the Federation away team led by Riker against the Borg collective away team head by Locutus of Borg, who is obviously Jean-Luc Picard, who has been turned into a Borg. And the objective of the game is to score points through missions. So you're going to have a series of missions. You're going to start the game with a core mission. So this is the core mission for the Federation. It could be either this one or this one. And you also have a core mission for the Borg, which could be this one or this one. And you're going to have a bunch of mission cards that are going to give you points. So, for example, this is the mission deck for the Federation, and you're going to have here an example of a mission. So this mission will give you 10 points if you're able to complete it. Take a command skill at any command terminal. If passed, score this card. This is a command terminal, for example. So there's a bunch of different mission cards that you're going to be able to try to finish. The game, at the end of the game, at the end of 3 rounds, whoever has the most mission points is the winner. I think in terms of the character cards, very quickly, like I mentioned, these cards are going to have these pegs here, like this one. And the pegs are going to give skills. Basically, we've got Federation, William T. Riker, who Riker is, etc. These are some specializations that give him bonuses. So he has command, diplomacy, security that gives him bonuses in those areas. He is also a human commander, which some cards target or this type of traits. This is his weapon. Some characters have more than one weapon. In this case, Riker has one weapon. So he has a Type 2 phaser that gives him +1 attack dice. Doesn't give extra damage and has stun rules. Just for the sake of comparison, this is Worf. Worf has two weapons, a Type 2 phaser, and he also has a Batleth, which is a melee weapon, which is different. And when he attacks, he needs to choose whether he's going to use the Type 2 phaser or the melee weapon. Obviously, melee can only be used against adjacent enemies, but and the phaser can be shot at a distance. But yeah, so Worf has 2 weapons. Data, you can see here, also has the bare hands as a weapon. And then these are the abilities. This is attack, obviously to attack enemies, defense to defend from enemies, skill to do skill tests, and then movement. And the number of pegs here indicates how much they have. So right now, Data has 3 attack, 3 defense, 3 skill, 2 movement. With movement, you can see that, for example, Riker can move 2 spaces. If he had a peg here, he would be able to move 4 spaces. So as they take damage, they will lose some of these abilities. Mission cards, I've also mentioned. There's the core mission, and then there's support cards. And by the way, the game comes with 2 decks, 2 starter decks. It comes with a Federation starter deck and a Borg starter deck, and I've sleeved the cards. The decks don't come with sleeves, but I've sleeved them. The Federation starter deck is the cards that they recommend for the first games. The same with the Borg starter deck, and then there's some extra cards in the box on the card set that when you get comfortable with the game, you can start to do some deck building. So it's nice that they've already included some cards on the core set to do some deck building instead of just relying on expansions. There's 2 types of cards in the deck. So there's basically besides the mission cards that I mentioned, there's support cards. And support cards could be equipment. Equipment is something that you're gonna use to boost your characters, like a hypo spray, or events. In this case, transfer control, tactical retreat. So you're gonna have different equipments and events that you're gonna be able to use. Event Riker's orders, medical attention. You got Jordi LaForge there. Obviously these sprint, which gives you extra movement. Obviously, all of these, Jordi LaForge, evade. Obviously, Chief O'Brien. Obviously, all of these, Beverly Crusher. People, folks who are fans of the TV show will recognize all of this, also because the images are images from the TV show itself. And you're going to have this starter deck in the beginning, and then you're going to be able to do some deck building, like I mentioned, if you want to. And obviously, the game is just begging for more expansions, and I'm pretty sure there will be more expansions. So, how does the game play? Very quickly, I'm not going to go through all the phases, but the game you start by scanning the mission, what they call scanning the mission area, which is to set up the board. And setting up the board is basically deciding on whether you're going to play on this side or on the Borg side, and then taking some actions, putting the modular board together. There's some rules on how to put it together, and there's also some turbo lifts that allow characters to move more quickly. Then you're going to choose your core mission, like I mentioned. So you can choose either one side, which is in this case assimilate ship for the Borg, and in this case it's distinctiveness. You're going to select your core mission, which will give you points at the end, and you're going to beam down. And beam down means that you're gonna put your characters. So I've randomly put some characters here, but you're gonna put some characters. Then you're gonna draw cards from your deck. Like I said, you're going to have 2 separate decks. You're going to have, and they actually look quite nice. They look like this. So you have a mission deck and a support deck with the Federation symbol, and you're gonna draw from both of these decks. You can do mulligans. Usually you draw cards, both mission and support cards, up to 5 cards in your hand. You can always do a mulligan in the beginning of the phase. And then you're gonna go into the actual action phase. In the action phase, you're gonna check if your party has, or your away team has, less characters than your opponent. You're gonna get a bonus action for every bonus action token for every character that you have less than your opponent. So in this case, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Borg and we've got 4 Federation. So the Federation would get a bonus action token. And bonus action tokens give you extra actions, as the name implies. So it's a way to kind of even it out. And then you're going to activate your characters. Like I mentioned, you have these activated tokens, and you're gonna put the activated token, and you're gonna do something with that character. So in this case, we've activated data over there, and you can do 2 actions. The first action is you can move. So for example, in this case, you see here that data has the peg, so he can move 4 spaces. That means he could move, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4. Obviously, the turbo lifts are considered adjacent for the sake of movement, and there's stuff that you can't move, like these thick. You can't do this because of the thick black line. So you can move. You can also attack. You can take cover. If you think you're going to get attacked, you take cover. You put a take cover token on the character, and that gives the character 1 extra die to defend. You can take special actions. You can also decide to draw cards instead of activating, and in terms of attacking, basically what's going to happen is you're going to check. Let's say that we've got Riker here attacking one of the Borgs. So basically you're going to check line of sight, as in usually these miniature games, you're going to check if your character can draw a line, a straight line to the space where your opponent is, to be able to attack, and there's some characters that block it, etc. So for example, here Worf would not be able to attack these Borg because this can't do a straight line, but Riker can attack these Borg. So he would choose which one is the Borg that's being attacked, and then you've got these dice. So obviously you choose your weapon. In the case of Riker, he only has a Type 2 phaser. You see how much attack Riker has. So in this case, there's no peg here, so that's 1 attack plus 1 for the Type 2 phaser. So you will roll 2 of these Federation dice. These are the Federation dice. So let's say you roll 2, you roll the 4 and the 4, and then let's say that the Borg. So on the Borg, you basically would look at how much defense they have. Let's say that the Borg have 2 defense, but there's a thing called backup, which means that he has a friendly in the same area, so that gives him 1 extra die. We also have these Borg themed dice. So the Borg roll, and I'm just going to put these here to the side, and then you have this dice boards, which I'm also not a big fan of, but anyways, the dice board, basically you're going to set your dice from highest to lowest, and you're going to compare the values. There's a moment where you can re-roll. So basically, you've got, like I said, you've got mission cards and equipment cards on your hands, and you can choose to discard some of those cards. You choose to discard the card from your hand to re-roll 1 or more of the dice. So let's say that Riker or the Federation discards a card, and they want to re-roll. Now, actually, let's say the Borg discard a card, and the Borg want to re-roll this 2 and this 3. So they've discarded the card, and they've rolled 2 1s. So they actually lost the card, and now they're even worse than they were, which actually in this case doesn't make a difference. But and you're going to compare the values, and values higher. If the attacker has a value higher than the defender, that creates 1 damage. So this is 1 damage. So this is nothing in terms of damage, 1 damage, and this one is ignored. If there were dice that don't have a corresponding dice on the defender side, if this is 1, 2, or 3, nothing happens. If it's a 4 or higher, then there's also 1 damage. So this is 6, by the way. And basically, in terms of taking damage, you're gonna take pegs from your character, equal to the amount of damage that you've taken. And if you can't take any more, obviously you decide if you wanna take from movement, attack, defense, or skill, depending on what you need for that character. So there's a lot of strategy here involved. If you're unable to take more pegs from your character and you would have to take damage, then your character has been neutralized, which is obviously unfortunate. And so there's a lot of things. There's cards, there's the weapons, the backup, the other effects that you might have. So I think I really like the battle, the attack phase of the game. I think this dice board is a little bit flimsy. It's okay, but I think they could have done a little bit better. And I'm not too sure if I like the rule of being able to discard a card to reroll one or all of your dice. One or more of your dice. You can reroll 1, 2, or all of them. Because you can do it multiple times, actually. So the way this works is I'm attacking and I say I'm going to discard a card, I reroll, the defender does the same. And only when 2 people pass is these reroll are these rerolls done. So I think that I'm not too sure if I'm happy with that, or if they should have put it as just a one-off that you can do it once and that's it. But anyways, I'm quite happy with the battle system in this game. I think it's very strategic, very interesting. There's skill tests, like I mentioned, and the skill tests are quite. I'm not going to go through them. They're quite similar to the battles. It just means that you're doing a skill test on something to score points for the mission. Some tests are unopposed. Other tests are opposed by the challenger, and it works. It's not exactly the same as the attack, the battles, but it's quite similar. There's obviously, in terms of skill tests, you use the character's skill and whatever other bonuses they have or cards that you have. There's also interrupt cards. I've played the game, I think, 6 times now, and I don't think I've seen the entire deck, or or certainly I haven't played all the cards in the that come in the core set. But there's also interrupt cards. There's many different events, many different equipment cards. So there's cards that are equipment, that are weapons that are attached to your character. If your character is neutralized, you lose that equipment, obviously. Some cards are like super thematic, like your spaceship is helping you with resources or abilities. There's these assimilation boards for the token, for the Borg, that when you assimilate a character of your opponent, so let's put this to the side. So let's say we have Worf. Let's say poor Worf here has been assimilated by the Borg. You put this on top of the board, on top of the character card for Worf, and so Worf has now been assimilated by the Borg. So he literally plays for them. So this is highly thematic, very well put together. At the end of 3 rounds, you basically the game is over. You're gonna score your mission cards and see who has the most points, and the most points is the winner. In terms of review, I'll start with the pluses, the minuses, and then my score. I think the plus is the main reason why I got out and bought this game is the theme. I'm a Star Trek fan, including Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I think the game is there's not a whole lot of good Star Trek games out there. Star Trek Ascendancy and maybe 1 or 2 others, not too many for such a revered franchise. And I think this is a really good game. And it's the type of game that I've been waiting for quite a while. I think thematically it's very well done. You've seen the cards. The cards are just top notch. They all make sense. This is the Borg deck. These are all Borg equipment, simulation armature, biological regeneration implant, negate obstacle, death is irrelevant. I think the game is highly thematic. The characters, the cards, the abilities, everything screams Star Trek: The Next Generation in the Star Trek universe. I think the game is also you could see where they're going with this. You could see that this is a game that can be expanded in many different ways. There's already um, two expansions out there. One is the Borg. One is the Klingons, and the other one is the Romulans, which you can use to replace any of these sides. So you can do Federation versus Klingon. You could do Romulan versus Borg. You could do Klingon versus Romulan. And even though I haven't played with those, I know that they play quite different. And that's another element that I would like to mention here, is that the Federation and the Borg play completely different. It's totally asymmetric. And I know that it's the same with the Klingon and the Romulans. So every time you play with a different faction, you're going to have a very different experience with the game. So possibilities to expand. Obviously, there's cards that can be added in terms of deck building. I think there's cards that can be added to these decks. I think I think that you could have there's specialists to replace your specialists. You could have commanders to replace your commanders. I'm pretty sure all of that is coming and more boards. Obviously, you have these two, but more boards, more battles, more with the same system, but other parts of the Star Trek lore and universe. I think the game is fun. I have fun playing it. I played it against a couple of opponents, and they also had fun. So that's always good. Good system, like I said. I think the system is pretty robust. It's well done. And I think that they were obviously they've included these two maps, the Borg side and the Federation side. That's already good. There's the variable setup, which gives it more variability, and like I said, there's extra cards for deck building. So you're when you feel that you wanna change up a little bit your decks, you have these cards. These are Borg non-starter deck cards that you can use to replace some of the cards that you have in your deck with these to basically do other missions or have other events and equipment. So basically, you're going to be able to customize the game to your play style and try a few different options, which gives the game more replayability. I think in terms of the minuses, I had seen a couple of videos mentioning that the Borg are weaker than the Federation. I certainly thought that was the case in the games that I've played. It is harder to play with the Borg. It's harder to score points, especially if you stay back and you let the Federation do their thing and you're just trying to score your own missions. That's going to be an uphill battle for you. So I think the game is a little bit unbalanced out of the box as it is if two players have no experience with the game. However, I think that as you learn to play with the Borg and as you learn to have a little bit of more strategy and you know the deck and you use abilities like Hive Mind and a few others, you will be able to kind of ramp up. And Hive Mind is this ability here. It seems pretty important for the Borg. You will be able to have a better chance and to balance the game. So I would say that the Borg is kind of more an advanced faction. I wouldn't say that they're underpowered necessarily, but they're more of an advanced faction where in order to be able to win, you need to know how to play them, and you need to have a specific strategy of a mix of going after the Federation and putting roadblocks, and then also doing your missions. If you do just one of the two, if you just fight or if you just do your missions, you're going to lose most likely, unless your opponent is really bad. But yes, I think out of the box, you need to be careful with this, and you need to play the Borg in a special way. If out of the two players, one is already more experienced in this game, I would say that player should take the Borg. Um, I also mentioned that some of the components, the rule books, the typos are things that I would have liked to see a little bit different, but it is what it is. At least they're functional. It doesn't. There's nothing necessarily wrong. This is a bit of a nitpick, but yeah, I think some of the components could have been slightly different. I do like the dice. I do like the dice. I've seen that in the expansion you need to buy the Klingon dice and the Romulan dice separately, which uh, is not ideal. Let's put it this way. But in this core set, I like the theme dice. So and finally, I'm not sure about this, but I've read somewhere that if you want to play 3 or 4 player games, you need to buy a second core set. If that's the case, I bought the game essentially to play it 2 player, but if that's the case, then it seems like it's not ideal. But overall, very happy with the game, very happy with the theme, fun system. I'm very keen to see where this is going next and what ways the game is going to expand. And I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. If you're a Trekkie, uh, look no further, buy the game. You will not regret it. Thank you.